guys? Welcome to this latest episode of the program. As you already know, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave us some comments, tell us what you think. NBA playoffs are in full mode right now, and we're going to go over the last games that have happened and the turn of events that have occurred throughout these playoffs. And the first series we're touching on is the Detroit Pistons and the Orlando Magic. Pistons faced elimination and were able to stay alive for one more game. The Magic are currently leading the series 3-2. Surprisingly, Orlando have found a second life after struggling to not only get in the playoffs after losing the first playing game and then winning the second playing game and getting in the playoffs and facing the number one seed in the East. And the Magic have matched the physicality of Detroit. Paolo Banchero and Desmond Bane have been playing amazingly during the series, and if it wasn't for a great Cade Cunningham, who's literally carrying this Pistons team, the Pistons would have been sent home already. And it's kind of mind-blowing. I think Jalen Duren and Tobias Harris and Ausar Thompson and the two shooters that they got, Duncan Robinson and Kevin Huerter, will have to step up and give some much needed help to Cade Cunningham in order to have the Pistons go ahead and turn this series around and get it to not only a game 7 but win it. I still have them as favorites because I'm expecting more production from the guys that I mentioned. But I guess it's gotten to a point where I wouldn't be surprised if the Magic close this series in 6 in Orlando as well, because I feel like the gap has been is a little significant right now, and it's pretty much a 50-50 series here, and it would be very disappointing if the Pistons were to go home in the first round after this amazing regular season. But that also goes to show you the difference between the regular season and the postseason, and how some guys, not only are the rotation shortened, but also how some guys basketball do not translate in the postseason. And I'm calling out Jalen Duren here, for instance, in this situation and the very lackadaisical series that he's been having for now. So shout out to the Magic for believing in themselves and not worrying about how they got into the playoffs, but let's focusing on getting better. And like we always say, playoffs are about matchups, and I think they're a tough matchup for the Pistons, and they're clearly showing it now. And major shout out to Cade Cunningham and Paolo Banchero for the amazing matchup that they had, show that they have in Game 5. With 45 points each. It was really great to watch, and I'm excited to see what Game 6 gives for this series. Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland is currently also leading the series 3-2 after letting the Raptors come back and tie in the series 2-2. Cleveland is pretty much playing with the food. The Raptors have no business being in the Game 6 with the Cavs, if you ask me, but this Cleveland team, and that's why even before the playoffs began, I said I don't trust the Cavaliers, because I've seen what they used to be in the past in the playoffs, and then they got a guy like James Harden, who's not necessarily the most trustworthy player in the playoffs as well. And we seen it here with the Cavs against the Raptors during this series. And if it wasn't for Dennis Schroeder, who had a very great game 5 coming off the bench, I think the Raptors would have had the lead in this series 3-2. But we'll see how they go about Game 6. They currently leading they're leading the series 3-2. They better close the series in 6. They don't want to have a Game 7. There's so many things that can happen in a Game 7. We're going to talk about it pretty soon, but so many things that can happen in the Game 7. Guys can be lights out that you don't want to take a chance to go to a Game 7 if you can close it in 6. So the Cavs better close this thing in 6. Otherwise, it's gonna become very interesting, and it's in the hands of the leaders, in the star players, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, to take leadership and finish this series in 6. Otherwise, it's really going to be tough for them, like I was saying. The Los Angeles Lakers lose against the Houston Rockets without Kevin Durant, even with the return of Austin Reeves from injury, and I believe 18 points that he was able to bring back in this game, but he was really bad in terms of field goal. 22 points as a matter of fact, but 4 of 16 from the field, which was a big issue for the Lakers. And obviously, Luke Kennard, 1 point in 31 minutes is not gonna cut it. LeBron James has done what he could, even though he had some costly turnovers down the line, and also I think they had a pretty nice DeAndre Ayton, but unfortunately it wasn't enough to beat this young Rockets team without Kevin Durant, like I was saying. But guys like Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Alperen Şengün have found the resources necessary to extend this series after being down 3-1 as well, and the Lakers had an opportunity to close the series as well, and did not take advantage of it. Now they gotta face another Houston team in Houston for Game 6, and like I said, the Lakers better close this in 6 as well, because you never know what happens in a Game 7, guys. First of all, the Lakers are an older team. A guy like LeBron James can get hurt at any given time, even though he has an amazing off the field habits and training and try to stay as healthy as possible. Kevin Durant might come back for a Game 7. You just don't know. He's dealing with a knee injury, I believe. If you can close this series in 6 after being up 3-1, you gotta close it. And I'm relying on, guys like LeBron James and all the experience that he has in the playoffs, and Austin Reeves and DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, who also has a lot of experience. I'm relying on these guys to shut this young Rockets down, shut them up completely if you don't want to go to a Game 7. Because, like I said, you never know what happens in those Game 7s. But I'm sure that the Rockets will be pumped in this Game 7. They're gonna be playing that back in Houston, so they will definitely play the heart out to try to get to that Game 7, and it will be very, very interesting to watch. So shout out to the Rockets for extending the series and playing the heart out, man. Love that, and we'll see how it goes and who comes back eventually if there's a Game 7. The New York Knicks closed the series in 6 against the Hawks in Atlanta. Amazing performance by the Knicks. They obliterated the Hawks 140-89. This was ridiculous. It was almost a 60-point deficit in the third quarter for the Knicks in this game. And shout out to the Knicks for just taking care of business. They were the better team throughout the series. We knew that. And after playing and screwing around a little bit, they finally took care of business. Decided to be more assertive. Karl-Anthony Towns playing a little more in the paint. It's still not as much as I would love to, but he was more assertive. Had a couple of dominant performances where he had a triple-double and another one where he had a huge double-double. So shout out to them. Jalen Brunson is not having a great series, if you ask me, especially on the defensive end of the ball. But job is done. They've done a great job. They allow themselves a game to rest before facing the winner of the Sixers and the Celtics, a game that we're gonna talk about in a moment. That is going to 7. So shout out to the Knicks. The Hawks, after having hopes in this series, unfortunately, go out in such a disgusting and shameful way. But there's a lot of things that they can build off of from this series, and I think continuity is definitely going to help them next season. They definitely need to add some size on that roster, especially at the center position. I think they have a lot of good wings, and the guard position is also something that they definitely need to get better at. I love the addition of CJ McCollum. He was good for most of the series. He hasn't had a good he wasn't really good the last two games, but I think he's a good veteran addition. Obviously he can also play come off the bench. Jonathan Kuminga needs to go back to the lab and try to assert himself in this team also. And Nickel Alexander-Walker, shout out to him, who won the Most Improved Player of the Year. Had a very big jump this season, but needs to also continue getting better. And I don't think he's a point guard per se, even though he's not a great shooter either. I'd rather have him as a 2 and have a better ball handler. Go look for a better ball handler, if you ask me, for Atlanta. But shout out to the Knicks, like I said. And my Philadelphia 76ers, the Sixers, against all odds, amazingly win 2 games back-to-back. And after being down 3-1 also, win 2 games back-to-back, one in Philly, one in Boston, and then come back to Philly and win Game 6 also, and are now going back to Boston for Game 7. I want to say something. I want to preface this Sixers conversation by saying something. You could doubt or call out or have issues with Joel Embiid's reliability. You could have issues with his availability, but you can never question, and I repeat, never ever question this man's heart, love of the game, toughness, and I mean physical and mental toughness, and just his desire to win. You can never question that. And I don't want to hear people saying, oh, Joel Embiid is soft or doesn't care about the game of basketball. Because for this man to have an appendectomy and come back from a surgery, not even 3 weeks, I believe he was 16, 17 days after the surgery, where he actually had some complication, come back and deliver the performances that Joel is delivering right now with the Sixers. I don't care about this series anymore. It just showed me what this man is made of. And actually, I wouldn't say showed me, just asserted some more what I already knew about this man's heart and dedication for the game. And it's just a beautiful story. And I hope it's going to shut some critics down, because the man has been extremely unfortunate with injuries. But there's no reason to question his heart and love for the game or his toughness. The Sixers, like I said, they were down 3-1. Joel came back, lost the game in Philly at home, where the Celtics shoot the lights out of the 3. And for some reason, every game that they lost so far, they've been abysmal for the 3 when they lost those games. And then when they win the lights out from the 3, they, Joe Mazzulla and his theory, you live and die by the 3, and that's just how Boston is. But the Sixers have been doing a tremendous job, especially this last game, defending the perimeter, and actually also the previous game, Game 5, defending the perimeter and not giving open looks and amazing looks from the 3 to these players. Derek White has been in a slump in his 3-point shooting. Jason Tatum has not played in the fourth quarter of this game. He was talking about some stiffness in one of his legs, obviously from probably overcompensating the leg that he didn't have the surgery on for the Achilles. So we're not sure. It didn't seem serious in his press conference, so I'm assuming he will be there for Game 7. I'm not too sure about it, but the Sixers just need to continue defending the perimeter and not allowing a lot of great looks from 3 to the Celtics team, and I think they definitely have a chance if they do that. Like I said, Joel has been great since his return, open up some more opportunities for Tyrese Maxey. Paul George has been very good also, defending both JT, Tatum, and Brown, the wings from the Celtics, and also been productive offensively. I love the production from VJ Edgecombe on the defensive end of the ball, but also, offensively. And I just have one thing that I need Nick Nurse to be able to tell anybody on the Sixers roster. Whenever they switch on Peyton Pritchard, it's one-on-one basketball. You put him in the blender, you post him up and go to the basket, especially Joel Embiid and Paul George. It's unacceptable that there are some switches that get a matchup of Joel, a 7-footer, against Peyton Pritchard, who's barely 6 foot, and Joel is passing the ball for a 3-point shot or not posting him up. That's basketball malpractice at that point. And Nick Nurse needs to address that, because there's been several possessions last game and this game where they had a switch and Pritchard on Joel Embiid, and I saw that with Paul George also, and they're not taking advantage of it, and that's extremely ridiculous. And that also applies to Kelly Oubre, Tyrese Maxey, and VJ Eshun, because they all have the size advantage on Peyton Pritchard on defense, and we know him for not being a great defender, but it's very important that they take advantage of this, because every point is going to matter. And Joel obviously also needs to be more dominant in the paint. He settles for some threes sometimes. I need to be more dominant in the paint in the paint area, because that allows his teammates to be more wide open, because one-on-one he's unguardable. So pretty much what happens is he's gonna be able to draw some fouls on the Celtics centers that are not really great centers. And when the double also comes, then he can kick it like he's been doing. I think he's been having a great playmaking series so far ever since he came back. He's able to kick it to open guys, or just like the behind the back backdoor pass that he had for Kelly Oubre for a dunk. That was a great sequence where Joel does that. Then on the other end, the Celtics are trying to go for a layup, and Kelly Oubre blocks the shot. Maxey gets the ball back, gives it to Paul George. Paul George also for a behind the back pass, sends it to VJ Eshun, who goes for another dunk also. It was a great sequence from the Sixers in this series and in this particular game, and I just loved it. I loved the play sequencing from Nick Nurse. Shout out to him also for coaching these guys up, and obviously they're healthy right now, so it's definitely better. They have a chance to go to Boston, close this, and the two keys, like I said, will probably be defend Boston on the perimeter, force them to have twos instead of threes, and not get wild from the three like they like to go. Every time they've been under 20-30% from the three, they're losing the games. I would say that's one thing that you need to do. And the second thing is, I don't want to see Joel Embiid settle from the three. Get your big butt in the paint, dominate in the paint, and then when you get double, just kick it. So shout out to the Sixers for making this a series and going to 7. I love the effort, I love the dedication and the hard work that they've put in, and I'm super proud of them. And we'll see what happens in Game 7. Last game and last series, the Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Denver Nuggets and closed the series in 4-2 in 6 at home at Target Center. What a performance by the Timberwolves. I personally thought, and I think everybody thought, when Anthony Edwards went down and when Dante DiVincenzo also, speedy recovery to him, went down with an Achilles injury, that Denver was going to come back in this series and win it all. And they haven't. And this Game 6, actually, Ayo Dosunmu also was out for the game. Bones Island barely played 9 minutes, but there was a great Jaden McDaniels who pretty much backed up all the trash talking that he's been having for the Nuggets. Had a great performance, 32 points and 10 rebounds. Terrence Shannon Jr. also had a very good game for the Timberwolves, and so did Rudy Gobert, especially defensively. It was really great, and this is unacceptable for the Denver Nuggets, if you ask me. I had them as a favorite in the West to win the championship. Now they're gonna face the San Antonio Spurs. Shout out to them, who won convincingly against the Portland Trail Blazers, just like OKC also did against the Phoenix Suns to close the series early out there. And this was supposed to be Denver. They were the better team, especially with these guys out. Like I mentioned, Anthony Edwards Dante DiVincenzo, and Ayo Dosunmu, and Denver didn't take care of business. I think the depth was pretty good this season, but they were not able to make shots. Jamal Murray was 4 of 17, 12 points in 40 minutes in this game. That's not acceptable for a number 2 guy on this team. And Christian Braun, 28 minutes, 3 points. Spencer Jones, 8 points in 35 minutes also. I understand that Eric Gordon, who's an important piece on that Denver team, was out in and out the rotation with some injuries. But you gotta be able to beat the Timberwolves without Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo and Ayo Dosunmu, who picked up the slack when they first went down. But they haven't. I guess some adjustment and changes are coming from Denver. Tyus Jones and Bruce Brown coming off the bench. I thought these guys would be, and also James Valanciunas. I thought they would be great additions in the playoffs for Denver, especially with the depth. But they haven't really been performing. And like I said, Peyton Watson and Aaron Gordon were not there. Were hurt, but that's not an excuse to not take care of business when Minnesota is so short-handed. But shout out to the Timberwolves for an amazing performance. Shout out to Coach Finch for instilling the belief in these guys that it was still possible even when their guys went down. The stars, especially Anthony Edwards, leader of this team, went down and taking care of business. Now they're facing a taller task with the San Antonio Spurs with all the confidence that they have. And man, can I not wait for an NBA Western Conference Finals between OKC and the Spurs. That would definitely be one for the books, I believe, if we're able to have that. So I'm pretty excited to see what these two teams do in the second round against, respectively, Minnesota and whoever wins between Houston and the Lakers for Oklahoma City. That's pretty much all I have for this episode. Like I said, I appreciate again the tremendous support that you guys give to the program. Continue to subscribe to the channel. Share the videos. Leave us some likes and comments. And I'll catch you guys at the next episode. Ciao.